Welcome to another edition of BadgerBeat, our weekly look ahead to the University of Wisconsin's next football game. I'm Adam Mertz. I'm joined by Tom Mulhern and Andy Baggett today. First topic of business, the numbers he's put up. It's hard to ignore this topic of conversation. Russell Wilson, can you mention the word Heisman with Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. And the one issue I thought he was going to have to fight was he may not put up the offensive numbers that some other quarterbacks are. But if you're looking at the last game, 300-plus yards passing, he's now got 8 touchdown passes. His name's got to be in the conversation. I think with a bullet, I think he's moving up too.
Andy, you've covered a lot of Heisman campaigns. You've noticed a lot of what people do to promote. Do you see the materials that Russell Wilson's giving Wisconsin to market him as that?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see what Wisconsin does to market him. I think in a perfect world, I think Wisconsin wants to see to build this around the Nebraska game without question, because that's going to be the marquee moment. But when you see ESPN, when you see major outlets nationally talking about him in the context of the Heisman, I think you have to jump on board. And I think the school, if they haven't started putting together a package by now, then I think they're behind the game.
On the other side of the ball, the defense came into the season as kind of a question mark, a lot of moving pieces. The numbers they put up have been kind of hard to ignore. Where do you see this defense at? Are they as good as the numbers have shown? Are you waiting to see a little bit more in terms of opposition put up against them?
I thought there was a huge statement made against Northern Illinois. I think Northern Illinois' offense is very, very good. They have a veteran quarterback. They had veteran people. And I think that defense, to me, was as big a story as anything that came out of that game, because I think a lot of people were pointing to that game, given the strength that Northern Illinois had on offense, that Wisconsin was able to control that unit, to frustrate a quarterback like Chandler Harnish, who's been around for a while. I think that was a huge statement by this defense, and I think it's going to get better.
What personnel do you think have jumped out at you to be able to make the defense have a statement like that?
Well, one of the things that impressed me, in fact, is a story I'm working on right now, is it has not been very complex. They haven't had to do a lot of things. They're keeping it simple and allowing players to play really fast. And I don't know that anybody has jumped out. I mean, Borland's had his moments. Mike Taylor had a really good game last week. But I think everybody's doing their job right now. And I think there's a chance as things progress maybe to get a little more complex, but they haven't had to. And so they're playing really fast right now, and I think that's a pretty good sign.
Badgers have South Dakota here at 2:30 on Saturday. Are we going to see more of an Austin Peay or a Cal Poly out of South Dakota?
Well, I would say somewhere in between. I think they're a decent team. Everybody knows they beat Minnesota last year. They beat the defending FBS champs, Eastern Washington, this year. So I think it's a decent team, but it's a different Wisconsin team than faced those two teams in the past. I think that's the big variable in all this. And so I'm guessing, we'll see the starters into the third quarter and then a lot of backups. But that's been the plan so far. They've got a lot of backups in the games, and I think this will be another chance to do that.
Yeah, about personnel, I mean, a lot of people had their eyes on Russell Wilson last week and were worried that he stayed in as long as he did. But Brett, afterwards, speaking of the positive tones, he talked about the running backs and Melvin Gordon and Jeffrey Lewis that came in late, and he mentioned them in postgame. Do you expect to see guys like that really getting center stage in this game?
I don't know about center stage, but I would think that they're going to get a lot of work. I think that's based on what we know right now about South Dakota, based on what we have seen from this team as far as Wisconsin, that they prepare well, that they're getting ready for this team as though it were any other opponent that they were going to play. I think they are seriously preparing to use their number ones into the third quarter. But I think the coaching staff has it at least very near the top of their to-do list, is to get more time for the young tailbacks and anybody else on offense that they think they're looking for depth to develop. But I really think that with South Dakota, don't go to sleep on them. I really think that South Dakota is a team that is getting better every year, that has personnel from Wisconsin on its coaching staff and on the field that are veterans, that are good players. One of the players played at Minnesota, so he was a Big Ten caliber player. I think that South Dakota is going to give them a test. How big of a test, I don't know. I think this Wisconsin team is much better than South Dakota, but there is reason to be wary on some levels with South Dakota.
Tune in for us. We'll have all the coverage on madison.com all week leading up to the game, and again with the post-game wrap afterwards. Thanks for joining us.